What's up, everyone? It's Kanan,
It's Jessie.
and we're the Geeky Saying couple. And yes, we know things look a bit different. Okay, so before we get into anything RWBY related, we want to go over why this video looks like it came out in 2020, because this is how the channel really started, with me beside the bed and Jess sitting on the bed. We've actually been recording stuff right behind me. We got a new camera. It's a
A
DSL.
DSLR. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
We got it with our tax return. Now, if things do not look bright and crisp, we're sorry. We are still
still
working on
learning
it.
this camera.
Yeah, so if it looks, if there's any chance it looks a downgrade than the webcam we were using, just give us some time. We've we've been working on this thing for a few days. That's why there's not been any videos. I've tried to record videos, and it's either been mic issues or full-on recording problems. I've still not gotten my original computer back, so we're using older computers. Jess's is a little bit newer than my old one, but I just don't think they can handle all the new equipment, because either the recording freezes up or the mic cuts out and creates this weird chipmunk sound.
and on top of that, you might see our recording space change here and there. We're actually going into renovating our space, so it's to make it better and easier, because recording straight on has been a lot easier, because usually our other recording space, if you've noticed,
Cramped.
it's cramped and it's kind of at an angle, which is actually causing some issues with this camera, because it also makes it hard if I can't be on green screen in that space, because it starts cutting me out, but we're at an odd angle, so it usually doesn't notice me.
So that's why the background is kind of barren. We did set up our new Volume 6 poster up, but it's it's
We
a
need
work
to
in
play with some
progress.
lighting, because this will probably be the main setup for now until renovations start. So
Yeah, and until, like, if I do a Let's Play before that's done, it'll be with the original webcam. But sadly, guys, I'm probably not going to be able to do any Let's Plays until I get my original good gaming computer back. So until then, it's pretty much going to have to be sit-down videos in this format. That way we can get used to using this camera, use it a bit more. Only downside of this camera is we got to worry about battery life. So,
we're actually going to be ordering some extra batteries.
yep, and we've also got an HDMI cord for it on the way, so that might actually help with the video quality. But we didn't want to wait. We did not want to go an entire week without uploading a new video, because the last video, I think, went up almost a week ago, which was that Bumblebee video. So yeah, this might be the format we work with a few times until I get my newer computer, my better computer back. Then I'll do Let's Plays in the same
And I'm finally not
video.
sick anymore, like, for the
Yeah.
most part.
So this video was actually the idea of a subscriber that I want to give credit to, because ever since they've subscribed, they've actually been very vocal in the comment section and things like that, or in our community posts. I'm sorry if I do not get this name right. Magdalena Rapala. Is that what?
I mean, that looks close to it.
Yeah. So this was their idea. Um, they said they had an idea for a possible video, and that was kind of a recap of RWBY Volume 8, kind of a where we left off, kind of like a build to Volume 9. Now that we know, Volume 9 comes out by the time we're recording this video in 15 days, I believe, so 2 weeks and 1 day. We did get some amazing news today. Rooster Teeth did confirm that reactions are going to be safe for RWBY Volume 9, even though it's on Crunchyroll now. So that is very good news. We also now know that the average runtime of an episode for Volume 9 is around 18 minutes. There are some episodes they did say that would be shorter than that, but there's also some that may be a little bit longer than that. But that's
But
the
the
average
average
runtime.
for all of them. So, but I'd say that's a good average, because, I mean,
They did.
that's a decent episode.
Yeah, and they did say, of course, that Volume 9 would be a shorter volume, especially compared to Volume 8, which was very long. Now, of course, we can't go over every single thing that happened in Volume 8 in this, or this would be a 3-hour video, and we just sadly do not have time to record that long. I don't think the battery would last.
I don't think so either.
And we both have to work tomorrow. So, what we're mostly going to talk about is the story overall, what happened with certain characters, and where that may lead off as far as Volume 9 goes. Sadly, that may leave a lot of stuff for characters like Ren, Nora, and others out, because I know you have your hopes, but it really does paint a picture that Volume 9 may very well just focus on Team RWBY. I'm okay with that. I think Team RWBY needs their own volume at this point. Like, after all that's went on, of course, Jean and Neo are there, so of course they're going to be involved. But, so yeah. RWBY Volume 8 started airing in November of 2020. Let that sink in. When Volume 9 starts airing, it is going to be over 2 years since Volume 8 started.
Yeah.
This, if you survived the RWBY hiatus, if you didn't drop the show, if you just didn't move on to anything else, there was a badge going around on Twitter that people were passing around saying, I survived the RWBY Volume 8 or something hiatus. Go print that out and wear it proudly. So before, I want to, seeing the trailer for Volume 9, seeing a lot of the stuff that has happened since then, what's being discussed about it, I don't know if it's just from how long the hiatus was, but, it almost seems like you can kind of see Volume 9 as maybe a sort of a soft reboot for RWBY. Mostly because, yes, it was a very long hiatus, but, the move to Crunchyroll, it's fresh, it's a new start in a way, and not a soft reboot as in terms of story and characters or anything, but, it feels like it's something new, in a way. Even though it's a continuing story that we've been following for many years now. So, Volume 8 was a very dark volume, in a lot of ways. It was the darkest volume since Volume 3, in a lot of ways. Because Volume 3, for the longest time, had been the volume where everything went to hell. Volume 8, I think, kind of really now kind of makes Volume 3 look like a walk in the park in a lot of ways.
I mean,
you just have Team RWBY suffering a very big L in a lot of ways. The death of Penny, the death of other characters, And, it's funny. I know I'm going to get teary-eyed when Penny gets finally mentioned in Volume 9, because let's face it, I cannot listen to Friend without crying. I cried in our reaction to it.
So do I. So did I. You start hearing it, and it's just, even if you try, it's just the tears come anyway.
Yeah. So, with Volume 8, we knew it was going to be that kind of volume from the very start, because for the first time, really, besides the finale of Volume 3 where they kind of had, well, it really wasn't an argument, but Yang was a little cold toward RWBY, but then again, Yang had just lost her arm. I'm sure she was dealing with Pyrrha's death in some way. Blake left, all that. But this started off with the first time we really saw Yang kind of losing faith in her younger sister, which was kind of a big shocker at the time.
Yeah.
Yang questioning RWBY's leadership, which has never happened. Yang has always supported RWBY. Now, of course, there may be more to it than this, but in a way it kind of just came off as sisters having a disagreement, because by the time they reunited, they made back up. They were,
Yeah.
They acted like the argument had never happened. But really, the separation also affected other characters as well. Now, Jean and Oscar, we were never really given a reason why Jean and Oscar went with Yang. I don't think so. I don't think we did. But it's Oscar and Jean. Jean wanted to go help the people. But they on screen they had Blake react to Yang leaving. And of course there was the stuff with Ren and Nora going on, and of course they split up. Weiss went with Ruby, of course, and of course Penny went with them because Penny, I think, at that point would have been more helpful going to Atlas than Mantle.
Yeah.
Because she knew where everything was. That was shown with her doing her whole, we go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, all that stuff. But also, you had Ruby once again going into horror territory with the Hound. And I think the Hound has caused more talk than any other Grimm, maybe besides the apathy, about just how menacing it was. Like that episode where it was stalking Yang and the others. You could see it in the background.
If you, especially when, if you didn't pay attention, you started noticing it after a while. But when we went and watched back through it again, it's like, wait a minute. It's there again. Before we even noticed it over here. It was just...
And, of course, it talking for the first time. And, this was before we knew the secret of the Hound. But we were like, there's Grimm that can talk? What the heck? And this thing was very powerful, but also it was creepy. It popped its joints all around and grew wings.
It was just...
Yeah, sorry guys, my eye is burning. And then when it arrives at Schnee Manor, at first we don't know who the Hound is after, is it after Ruby? Is it after Penny? And that's when we finally learned that there was a silver-eyed person inside of it. And I'll never forget when the Hound was finally defeated and they played that music, like the dark choir music and all that. It just screamed horror movie. And I still think they should do a side series of RWBY being a horror show because they do very well at it. But it caused us to think, is this what happened to Summer? Now, yes, we know you have your theory that you do not think Summer is actually dead. We still do not know the full-on answer to that. Because Miles and Carrie have said before that, yeah, she's dead, and then they've kind of went back on it a few times with a few things they've said.
But, even within the show and things like that, the one thing about that it's been stated is that that's just a grave. There's nobody actually there.
Oh, yeah. They
so,
never found her body.
That's...
they kind of followed the real life story that if someone has disappeared for so long, they're declared legally dead. And another thing, Volume 8 really had a theme going all the way through it is characters struggling with themselves. Now, of course, you've got certain characters like, prime example, Yang being bothered that Blake would think less of her because of her decision. Then you've got things of like Cinder, looking back at her past, and I don't know, for Cinder it was kind of like she was at a low point and then remembering her past and all that, and that little pep talk that Watts gave her kind of gave her evilness back in a way, you know what I mean? Because she got her groove back. But that's another thing. Cinder's backstory. I sympathized with Cinder. Remember? I was like the stepsisters eating the strawberry. I was like, I hope that strawberry is sour.
They made you feel bad, and then all of a sudden, turn around here. Not anymore.
But the thing is about that episode is that it goes with the old saying, evil is created, it's not born.
Yeah, which she chose to end up that way. I mean, even after the pep talk, she could have stopped,
But you know,
but she wasn't going to.
I found myself, like, even though we know what Cinder becomes, I was watching this thinking, oh, I want her to be happy. I want her to become a huntress. You know, I want her to have that happy ending because she never had a chance at it. But I do think it's amazing that they literally did give us evil Cinderella. That
Yeah.
is literally what Cinder is. And then you have other characters like Ren and Nora. Like, if if any two characters are the definition of struggling with themselves, it was these two, from volume 7 to 8. Because there for a while, Ren was turning into like
He was falling.
yeah,
like
he was like almost becoming a puppet. Like, he was like, we thought he was going to become like a puppet of Ironwood at that point because he was being all, you know, sir, yes sir, and stuff.
Because
like
he was
that.
struggling with himself, and I mean, if you think about it anyway, from him going through that, it's just like trying to anchor himself to something because he's struggling with himself because he's not, which we found out later on why this
Yeah.
led up to that. But him, responding to Ironwood that way would be a way of trying to anchor himself somewhere because of how much he was struggling with himself. But I mean, so it does make a lot of sense, especially when you go back and put all the pieces together. So it just makes me wonder. Now we know, but now it's Nora's turn.
Well,
so
she was next on my list. It's funny how Nora has went from a comedic relief character in the early volumes to, you know, we got a glimpse of it in, you know, around volumes 4 and 5, but then kind of took a back seat again in volume 6.
like her humor's there, and it's still always there.
Well, yeah,
but
it always will be. But volume 7 is literally, as far as secondary characters go, they're Nora volumes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you've got Nora questioning herself. You know, am I just good for, being loud and hitting stuff or something like? It's been so long.
Something like that. It's been a while.
And like saying stuff like, you know, I don't know who I am without Ren. And even though we didn't know it at the time, this was kind of a build to Nora wanting, in a way, to go on her own little journey of discovering herself. And it seems like a lot of characters in RWBY do this. They go through a certain time where they're figuring themselves out. And
I know through 8 we were starting to worry about Renora as well.
Well, yeah,
because
a lot of people were.
It's because like just how they did things, but obviously again there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
Which led all the way to the end with what Laura said. I mean.
Yeah, and pretty much a lot of people thought in that scene that we're talking about that Ren and Nora broke up, but they didn't. They still love each other, but they're putting
they're not stopping the relationship, but they're not putting a huge focus onto that. So he's pretty much going to be there to watch her discover herself.
Yeah.
So they're still together, but
Nora just needs to figure herself out before they move to the next stage. Like, and real life couples do that all the time, especially if something major happens.
Where one partner will let and watch the other one grow into themselves and discover themselves while still being there to support them. Like,
plus, Ren and Nora are at that age where that usually happens anyway.
Yes. Especially now that Ren understands because he awoke.
Yeah, and then it seems like once he unlocked his semblance, he woke up in a way. Now he can see everybody's emotions and stuff like that. So,
which he's always said, even to Nora, I always struggle with my emotions. Well, now he's capable of seeing it. Like he knows why he struggled so much. He was blind. He could feel it, but he couldn't see it. So now he's got both.
So moving on, because now we gotta wait and see what happens with Nora. Though we might not see that till volume 10. But let's move on to a couple of characters that went through some struggles, and that mostly being Harriet and Marrow. So everybody was kind of theorizing for a while that if any member of the Aesops was going to turn on Ironwood first, it was going to be Marrow. Because Marrow's a good guy. He's the youngest and newest member, and so he's not... He wasn't under the Ironwood spell like
No, he hasn't been pulled under, so he sees everything how it is. Okay, and we're seeing, okay, that's not right. Like, why are we doing that? Like, you could, he may not have said it, but you could see the look in his face as he gradually got worse. Like, he started thinking, this isn't right. Like,
yeah, because he was the one who started questioning everything. Like, this isn't how we're supposed to do things. A little arrogant at first, but it was mostly, him just putting on an act for what he really was. Like, it's like the first time we met him, saying, oh, we're on the same team now. Not that I'm happy about it, and his tail was wagging.
But that's the other thing also, is you could tell, like, the act he put on is because, he worked hard to be there, being a faunus. Like, that's still, especially, like, in Atlas. So, it was another thing. So, him seeing a different side of things, as things started getting worse, it was putting a little more into perspective. Like,
yeah. And then, of course, you have, like, him openly disagreeing with Ironwood, and Ironwood was going to shoot him. He was going to kill him until Winter saved him. So, yeah, it was like, I don't think it took much for Marrow to decide, I'm fighting.
I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. Then, of course, we have Harriet, who for a little bit, I don't know if you still really care much for her.
No, but I mean, I didn't think she was gonna go down completely with Ironwood in the end, but
stubborn,
it just
it's to no end.
But I mean, think of the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
The hare was stubborn and to the end, so it makes a lot of sense now if you think back on it. So,
but it's her actions that literally caused Vine's death.
Yeah.
And so,
she's gonna live with that.
Yeah,
now.
and I'm really curious whenever we do get to see the other characters how that is going to affect her. Because we were told through most of Volume 7 and some of 8 that the Aesops were co-workers. They weren't friends, though you can be friends with your co-workers.
And in the end, though, when it was too late, she started to see that.
Well, I mean, when she realized Vine was going to sacrifice himself, she literally screamed out no, showing that after all this time, no matter the bravado she put on, she did care about her teammates.
I'd like to hear if they reflect back on, now, I mean, Iron One, he's gone, but, like, them thinking back, okay, well, looking back and thinking, okay, that was a mistake. Like,
oh, yeah, I'm sure they will.
Especially seeing, like, it makes a lot more sense, too, seeing how Team RWBY and all of them function together. 2 different teams functioning together, even. Mm-hmm. Compared to them, even though they're supposed to be such a more higher ranking thing that Iron would put them up there. But now, seeing all this in the end, that's going to play back. They're going to see just how in the wrong direction his mind was going, because he was just gone.
Yeah. It
may have been good at first, but I would like to see a reflection with them of that. I don't think we're going to see that till, like, Volume 10, maybe, or so. But that's something I'd like to see, future-wise.
Another character that struggled with a lot, Winter. And, of course, everybody was asking the question, why give Penny the Winter Maiden powers if they were just going to go to Winter anyway, because that was the original plan for Ironwood and all that. And it's literally because if Winter had gotten the Winter Maiden powers in Volume 7, she would have been completely under
Ironwood's thumb right there.
So she had to go through pretty much her character run in Volume 8, seeing what Ironwood had become, deciding, yeah, this is not what I signed up for, turning on him, siding with RWBY and the others, and so by the time she got the Winter Maiden powers, she was of her own free will.
Yeah, her doubts towards Ironwood, the seeds for that started way back with Weiss.
Yeah.
So those were planted a long time because we here and there gradually started seeing something he'd start saying, and you'd see a look or something, or she'd say, sir, like not understanding why he's saying something like that, but those seeds that Weiss planted there, definitely in 8, this is where this all came forward, and then the things that she saw him turn, like where he turned quickly. And his turn to turn around and, like, just kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
without a care. Yeah.
She literally watched him kill one of the council members. And, it's kind of funny because at the end of Volume 7, Winter was really willing to arrest her little sister at that time. But then by even the events of Volume 8, she's starting to see that, yeah, things are not going well. And really, Winter's story in Volume 7-8 is really that simple. Ironwood puppet finally starts to realize that no, this isn't it. Turns on him, and so by the time she does get the Winter Maiden powers, it's her decision. It's not Ironwood's wish or order.
It's her.
And she's like, the Winter Maiden is not in his control.
But the high position that she was in, her turning, this is why, like, 'cause I know I saw someone say, well, why didn't she just do this? No, her turning had to be carefully calculated and planned to make him think she was still there, which, if that didn't work, she wouldn't have been able to save Marrow.
Yeah.
Because her word wouldn't have carried there. So, I mean, it had to be carefully calculated, so she knew what she was doing. She's very smart. So, it was just, she needed her own free will, and that long span of time gave her that, to be able to calculate that slowly in her mind.
And then, of course, there's other things, like Ironwood's descent into
Madness,
pretty much. And then, of course, the little things with Penny, her struggling with becoming the Winter Maiden, and the heartbreak of her having her Pinocchio moment, her becoming human, and then her being taken away from us again. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get emotional. And so, yeah, of course there are other characters like Crow, him dealing with the thought that RWBY and Yang are dead, but like I said, I don't think we're going to see the other characters in Volume 9. I really do think this is going to be a Team RWBY volume. And really, the ending of Volume 8 was, it was something else, because really, all along, the intro to Volume 8 told us the ending from the very beginning, because it showed them falling through all that. Now, of course, being RWBY fans, we were like, does the order matter? Is this the order they're going to fall? Blah, 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 and all that. But what surprised me the most is everybody was right on the first one who was going to fall, and that was Yang. Like, everyone just guessed that Yang... Now, of course, in the intro, she is the first one, but I think that's where a lot of people base it off of, but she was, in fact, the first one. But, we, being the main characters, if one of them fell, we knew all of them were going to fall. So, when people were like, oh my gosh, Yang's dead, what's going to happen? I was like, Yang is not dead. But, to me, still, the biggest surprises was, not really Neo. I had a feeling that, I even thought maybe Cinder and Neo both would fall.
I don't think Cinder was. Neo was a little bit of a shock, but I wasn't completely shocked. Jean was a huge unknown.
that was like, and it's kind of sad how John felt. Winter literally just left him. She could have picked him up because she can fly now.
Yeah.
And he's running behind her, and yeah, just poor John got left behind by Winter. Now going forward into Volume 9, we've got a lot to digest from the trailer. It really seems like that the fandom is going to get their wish, and RWBY is going to go through some stuff herself. I think
that one scene in the trailer, I think, is gonna be a revelation moment to herself, for her to get her mind back on track, to
now
her older self saying, would you really have fought like this with the things you know now, though? Like a reflection to get her going back in that right direction.
Now, in the trailer with her passing out, is that really her finding out about Penny, or is it something else?
I don't know. It could be, but I think that leads into that clouded thing where she's talking to her former self. Yeah. I believe that's her passing out leads to that, because that looks like, yeah, I know we have a thing where we think it's going to play on past emotion stuff. No, that looks like a straight within your mind thing. Like, you're something that, like, where she's seeing her past self, and that's what I think her passing out will lead to. That, because it kind of makes sense, though. But, her passing out still could be the result of Penny, but I think that's what that's going to lead into.
Well, the trailer definitely seemed to focus the most on RWBY. So I do think not only is it going to be a Team RWBY volume, it may be a very RWBY-centric volume. But then again, we only have like a less than 2-minute trailer of a 10-episode season. So each member of Team RWBY could go through something. And, really, thanks to someone that DM'd me, I'm starting to wonder if Blake and Yang reuniting is not the major moment. And that's because they filled me in that the scene where Team RWBY is looking over the landscape and, you see the tree and all that, Yang doesn't have her arm. It's still gone. But when she's on the bridge, she has her arm.
It's definitely two different moments.
Yeah, so I don't know. Either when we first see Yang, it's before the raccoon has stole her. Like, since Weiss mentions the raccoon, I really want to. That could mean that Team RWBY is there. They've all reunited, and then Yang's arm gets stolen.
That moment that Weiss goes over that could be that cliff. There's like that landmass they're standing on, where the background is you see all that stuff. My favorite is Weiss's face when she points that out. She's just like,
yeah.
What do I do with that?
Yeah, of course Weiss would try and make things
rationalize
logical.
it where that just
like,
there's
lady,
no way
there
to.
There is literally a landmass right near you that is nothing but dessert and candy. Like, really? You want to think things logically? Yeah.
But I think that talk will be right there on that cliff, because it makes sense. Yang doesn't have her arm. Everything's, they're going over everything that just happened. And Weiss is standing there with that type of background. That'd be I actually think that's where that's going to be. I will be extremely excited if I'm completely right about that, too. It's a little thing, but it's
Speaking of little, like, everyone wants to know, what is Little's role going to be? I still think, once again, it's going to be like the animal companion, helping them through ever after, but I hope Little comes to the real world with them. But
or she,
not.
There could be something of her in the real world. Well, there could be something of them in the real world that does connect to
Because I don't want to say goodbye to this little mouse. I will cry if we never see
They
Little
could
again.
be something in the real world, but I don't know.
There's stuff that's still throwing us off, like, why is it Weiss, Blake, and Yang that are shrunk and not RWBY? Is this some kind of trial that really only RWBY can go on? Of course, all the Alice in Wonderland stuff, but I think at the end of the day, if this really turns out to be an only Team RWBY volume, with some Jean stuff, of course, because there's still a big question mark on him.
And Neo.
Well, we've only seen the one thing of Neo. because they showed her in the teaser, and then they showed her. It's pretty much the same shot again, but this time we get to see her transform into Ruby. She has a real hang up of pretending to be Ruby all of a sudden. We don't know what her role is going to be. But I really do think that this is going to be. I hate to throw in Dragon Ball terms, but this could be like a going to King Kai's planet thing for Ruby. Like when they come back to the real world, they may have leveled up in some way.
That's what I mean. Like, I really do think that this is
like a journey to become stronger,
because,
just not physically, but mentally as well.
Because of the breakdown and stuff Ruby had in 8 and all that. Like, I really do, because she's at her lowest. She's doubting herself now, which I think that talk with her former self is going to be something very impactful that she needs. And something she needs to connect back to.
And you've said before, we could find a secret to defeating Salem here. We could find something that has to do with the relics. We could find something. I do love that they do think the tree is the key to getting back, because the tree is obviously important.
And the blue, that specific glowing blue, we were told to, like, in the pictures and stuff, pay attention to that. Pay attention to the stuff around you, behind her, behind this. Like, that blue glow, we know, matches. But the thing is another thing about, back to, like, when, Yang falling, everyone thinking she was dead and all that. He never said if you fall, you were going to die. He just said, don't fall.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. You fall, you're going to end up in a completely different world where you're not connected to reality right now. So,
but going back to the topic of Volume 8, I really am curious to see, besides Ruby finding out about Penny, if there's anything, and of course the hopes that Blake is going to react the way we hope she does, seeing that Yang is alive after her reaction of Yang falling, but are we going to see anything from their decisions from Volume 8 reflect in Volume 9? Because 9 is still, I guess, technically still part of the Atlas arc, because they're still in their Atlas outfits. It looks like, for some reason, even though they're in this new world, that Yang's not taking off her jacket, and, people were hoping for summer-like looks to their outfits, but, so yeah, like, really, going from Volume 8 to Volume 9 is a big question mark, because Volume 9 is going to be a volume unlike any other. It's not going to be the typical RWBY volume. So, it's, like I said, it could be seen as kind of a reboot in a way. It's a fresh start in a way. Because we still, to this day, do not know how long RWBY is going to go. But
we do know that there's still several arcs that need to be happening, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mean, we know where we're going next, clearly, because they set up for that.
I just don't think it's going to be strictly 3 volumes of Vacuo and then the final battle. I want to hope there's more, but we will see. Let's wait until Volume 10 is green-lit and we get more information on it. But we do know that Carrie and the others have at least started writing Volume 10. But yeah, the Atlas arc has been a very big roller coaster. We had the humble beginnings in a way in Volume 7 where things were still pretty lighthearted, things were starting to get a little serious. Then you had Volume 8, which was almost an odyssey in a way for the characters and us because of how long it was. And now we have the shorter but probably the most epic volume ever in Volume 9. But I really don't know what else we can talk about because we talked about story, we talked about characters during Volume 8 and going into Volume 9. So I think we're going to end it there. We hope you enjoyed it. Once again, guys, if the video looks a little off, please be patient because we are dealing with a new camera. We are still learning it. It's not perfect yet. And eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later, we're going to have a whole new setup. But once I get my good computer, hopefully things can move forward a little bit more. I can continue some stuff that I wanted to. And so yeah, as always, guys, if you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment. As always, this is Kanan.
This is Jessie.
We love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.